Hello, everybody. Welcome to Approachable AI. This is our 10th production, and the topic of the day is recapping 2023 and making some predictions for the next year. My name is Mikko Peltola. I'm from ACX, and I have Petri Salonen here with me today.
Hello.
So this production is a collaboration of ACX and TELUS. Together, we help companies build great products. TELUS traditionally covers the envision part, and ACX then complements that with the design and engineering capability. So before we jump into the topic of today, let's do a brief introduction. So why don't you, Petri, start and tell a little bit about TELUS?
Perfect. So TELUS has been around now for 18 years. So we've been focused really, truly doing workshops for Microsoft partners for the most part, Microsoft Global ISVs. And because of our background in very in-depth background in product development and productization, we offer different types of workshops based on the life cycle phase of the organization. So I'm super happy that all these different workshop types are now also available from ACX in the same way as we did it within the TELUS itself. And as you can see, we've been delivering these to very big companies, but also smaller startups and SMB organizations. Back to you, Mikko.
Excellent. Thanks, Petri. So this is the ACX leadership. We are mostly present in North America, US, Canada, and Europe. And as you can see, Petri has a dual role. So besides the work he does at TELUS, all that offering is available through ACX. And then Petri's work complements here at ACX our design and engineering capability. So if we break that down on the design part, we can do the research and insights and then lead into UX design, visual design, which of course goes hand in hand with the front-end development capabilities. We also have very strong secure backend and DevOps practice, and all of these are very important when you're building futuristic services. So we focus on the extended reality, AI, these kind of challenging use cases. So today's topic, we're going to look back into 2023 and then spend the bulk of the time making some predictions for the 2024. So it's been a year since our first blog post about AI that happened in December a year ago. And the headline of that blog post was Creative AI Breakthrough 2023. And then that was our prediction. We went one big prediction last year. So you note that the terminology wasn't as fixed as at least not in our mind. So we talked about creative AI instead of generative AI. And the blog post started by saying that 2023 will be the year of AI-driven experiences become approachable for consumers. And we didn't know it at that time, but that approachable AI became the theme that we've been carrying on then for a year. And now we have the 10th approachable AI webinar going on. Now, looking back, it looks pretty self-evident that of course AI happened, but that really wasn't the case a year ago. So if we look at the Google trend, AI globally, you can see that it's been pretty flat for up until late 2022. And actually, one thing that we mentioned in the blog post is we refer to McKinsey's State of AI study that was released mid-2022. And in that study, McKinsey noted that the number of organizations who have adopted AI hasn't increased in 4 years. And the usage within those organizations seems to be flat as well. So that was just 18 months ago. That was the observation from McKinsey, and that's how the world looked like. And then something happened. The ChatGPT came out. We were spot on the trend. So you can see that our first AI block came when the general knowledge started peaking up. And then in June, we started these approachable AI webinars. So we have a good track record. Our prediction a year ago went spot on. That, of course, sets the expectation high for this year's predictions. What else happened in 2023? So, of course, a lot, but if we try to kind of summarize it in a few minutes. So first, AI, ChatGPT captured the imagination of the people. And it became the fastest growing consumer app, reaching 100 million users in 2 months. No other application had done it at that point as fast. And what's even more remarkable, the application itself is just text interface. It wasn't a mobile app. It wasn't about cool videos and stuff like that. It was text that you can write and text that you get in return. But it was so fascinating text and how it worked that it delivered this kind of numbers. And it wasn't just the imagination of people. If we look at like what the leading companies are predicting, so PwC says that AI's contribution to the 2030 economy is $15 trillion. And to put that in perspective, the global GDP is just over 100 trillion. 15 trillion is not a lot smaller than US or EU's GDP. So we are adding a massive amount of activity with AI in the coming years. It's also not all going to be easy. So Forrester estimates that within the next 5 years, 16%, so 1 in 6 of US jobs will be replaced. This is not a net loss. 9% of jobs are going to be created because of AI, but there's still like a 7 percentage point drop in the number of jobs, according to Forrester. And that is quite massive if you think about it. The US unemployment at the moment is under 4%. If we are adding 7%, we are doubling, almost tripling the amount of unemployment if that would happen as they predict. So a lot of changes, not only in like boosting and creating opportunities, but there is going to be a lot of pain in this transition as well. And one way that to kind of address the pain is the regulation, and EU has taken the kind of leader seat on regulating AI, and they passed the AI Act just recently. But things happen slow, so it's going to be in effect only 2025. And a lot is going to happen in AI before the act goes into effect. So a couple of themes that we would like to raise for about 2023. We could say that the understanding evolved. So many people heard about the AI, it became their like scope a year ago, and then the understanding has matured throughout the year. So one thing is this kind of distinction between different flavors of AI. So ChatGPT, based on large language models, it is a generative AI. So it's learning through the deep neural networks how to take input data out and how to generate similar output data. That's one specific flavor of AI. We became like familiar first with text, then generating images, increasingly videos, but anything with a pattern, so music, software, anything can be generated with generative AI. If you followed our previous webinars, 75% of the benefits of the generative AI in the business field are going to be like captured by a handful of use cases: sales and marketing, software development and R&D, and then customer care. There is other kind of AI as well, enterprise AI, which could be like ML AI, machine learning based AI, that can be used to automate different processes and tasks. So you can look at like categorization or regression or clustering kind of use cases. You need databases for making decisions and generating insights, and then you can, for example, streamline operations and cut costs. And actually, that kind of machine learning based AI was the main flavor of AI up until a year ago when generative AI started like boosting its presence. So how do you build then applications with AI? We started with the kind of heavy process where you have where you are training models. So if you think about like ChatGPT-4, it takes massive amount of data to train that. You can build smaller models yourself. You can retrain or fine-tune the existing models. You need good quality data there, and then you need to train the model and deploy. And this kind of process typically takes months, takes a lot of knowledge, and it costs a lot. And this year, like what has become increasingly popular is then the prompt-based AI. So if you think about the AI models, generative AI models as like a finicky colleague, that you need to really like think, how do you ask the question? It's like talking to a toddler that you need to really figure out like what are you going to talk, and then you need to be kind of expecting it to behave like a teenager that it might be up to some mischief. And being very specific and intentional with your prompt, then you can like get meaningful end results. And this kind of prompt-based AI was picking up a lot this year. Another theme that we wanted to raise here is the evolving interest in the AI. And here is a Gartner data. So where do the functional leaders in companies see the AI push coming from? 29% of the push comes from bottom up and 71% from the top leaders. What's quite telling here is like how the functional leaders, if you're a CTO or CIO or somebody who is like responsible for implementing this, how they see the bottom up push. So you see it's organically coming, developing within each siloed business function. And that's quite like intuitive. If you have sales guys and marketing guys and R&D and different like functions in the organization asking help in AI, it's probably like very siloed, very use case specific demands. And how do you implement then AI in scale? With like you have a lot of different like requirements. On the other side of the chart, things then coming from the C-suite, the requests are typically more like generic. We want to stand out, we want to be seen, we make something that makes a big impact for the company. It's easy to ask, but like harder to implement. So the poor CTOs and CIOs are there in the middle, being sandwiched by all of these different kind of requirements and expectations. Another thing is like interesting is that it is these functional leaders that are leading the AI strategy. So you see like CTOs, CIOs, and so on at the top of the chart there. If you think about like function like sales strategy is typically defined by the sales leaders who then go to the IT department and say that we need a CRM system, and IT department then sets up Salesforce or HubSpot or whatnot. I think it's quite telling about the like immature nature of the state of the AI, that the AI strategy is defined by the technology leaders, not by the business leaders. Investments is another indication of the interest, and we can see that the AI investments really like skyrocketed this year. It was largely by the big guys, so Microsoft and such, who like poured tens of billions into companies like OpenAI. But there is a like rather rich ecosystem of different companies that you can see or can't see on the right hand side. It's so small. There start to be so many companies there. Also noteworthy that the 2023 chart here is only for 9 months, so it's still growing as we speak. If we zoom out to one of these like pieces on the right hand side, not specifically interesting as such, but just to see how much action there is. So foundational models and APIs, a number of companies, MLOps, vector database text, and like if you look at the whole AI space, there is going to be a lot of offering. Many companies are in a kind of land grabbing mode. They want to be the first to market and establish themselves. And we, of course, as users benefit of those. So we can get like good competitive marketplace, good solutions and with reasonable price. Finally, then the challenges. So data is the number one challenge. Having high quality, accurate, reliable data. In most of the cases when you're building something with AI, that is your biggest challenge. One thing that is not so much of a challenge that is like lower on the chart is the tech and workflow integration. You see it on the right hand side there, it's the second lowest red highlight. And that is because of the amount of money being poured into this industry. So the heavy lifting has been done. Companies are building like half ready-made solutions that we can use. So it's less of a technology problem. It is more a problem of building great products, understanding what are the customer needs, identifying what are the pains, what are the gains, and then building meaningful solutions that may be AI enhanced rather than doing AI for the sake of AI. Good. So that was the recap of 2023, and now we're going to move on to the predictions for 2024. And let's do so that Petri, you start, and I'll then continue.
Okay. let me share my screen here and tell me when you see it. Can you see prediction number 1?
Yes.
Perfect. So what I'm going to be wanting to talk, this is a presentation I ran into a few weeks ago by Andrej Karpathy. He's one of the co-founders of OpenAI. And what was really interesting in the presentation was how he explained System 1 and System 2 thinking. And I'm going to give you some examples of, in the real world, what it really means and how this is related back to the current status of generative AI. So you look at the book Thinking Fast and Slow. It's kind of interesting because I had bought that book years ago. So psychologists have been intensively interested in decades in 2 modes of thinking. And if you look at the System 1 thinking on the left-hand side, and if you make your calculation in your head 2 + 2, I mean, you would immediately automatically say that it's 4. So it takes little effort, almost no effort from your side. It's quick and almost like based on your instinctives. Now, if you look at the System 2 thinking, and if I'm asking you to multiply 17 times 24, at least in my mind, it's more complex. So it will take more effort. It needs to be more logical. It's usually more complex. And you really have to strain yourself to be thinking about the result of that. So it's not going to be quick, and it will take effort out of you. So if we compare this to chess playing, and specifically if you do speed chess. In speed chess, you move without really thinking, so it's quick. Your moves are instinctives, and that really corresponds to System 1 thinking, like I showed in the previous slide. But if you are playing kind of a serious game, you need to have more time to think through. And what you do, you are kind of building this tree of thinking. So if I move here, the result of my move might be the next one. And if I don't do it, I will move to the next one. So it's not quick. It's based on System 2 thinking. So if you play chess, I'm sure that you get the way System 2 thinking would work in that case. Now, how would that correspond to chess, but in language? So what we want to do in System 2 when it comes to large language models, we want to be able to ask ChatGPT, here is my question. And you know what? It's okay if you take 30 minutes to sort out the question. I don't need the answer immediately. So if you go to ChatGPT today, you get the response immediately. But when you look at the large language models, that's not the capability of any of the language models today. And that's what the researchers are inspired and working towards. So the question that we have when it comes to LLMs is, how can we create a tree of thoughts and think through the problem, reflect, rephrase, and come back with an answer, so the model is much more confident. So you won't have this hallucination, getting responses that are not really true. So it's interesting way to look at this thing, and it's not the case today. So what we want to do is to really think, convert time to accuracy. Now, if we compare to the System 1 thinking that we have today with LLMs, it's really System 1 thinking. They can't think through. They won't go through a reason through a tree of possibilities. They just have words after the other that have been built using neural networks, and you just get the next word. So it's almost like the cartoon on the right-hand side. That doggy won't really care. It's just one word after the other, and it takes exactly the same amount of time to get to the next word. So that it's not going to go through a tree. It just there's a possibility what that word will be next. So when I saw this presentation, it was kind of opened my eyes when looking at System 1 and System 2 thinking. Now, The other thing that researchers are really trying to figure out, specifically when it comes to large language models, is how could we utilize self-improvement as part of getting these models to be more predictive. And if I look at this, or if you know from the past AlphaGo, which was kind of a famous case where the machine itself was able to win a real user. So AlphaGo was a program developed by a company called DeepMind, and it has two major stages. The first stage is when you learn by imitating expert human players. So you play a lot of games by humans, and the learning happens just purely through imitation. And then the neural network learns how to imitate good players. This will make a good AlphaGo player, but it will never surpass a human player because it always reflects the one that is the best human player based on the training data. So what DeepMind did, they tried to figure out how to surpass a human player. And that was done through self-improvement. So in the case of the AlphaGo, they used a closed sandbox environment and did millions and millions of games automatically. And they had a reward function. And the reward function was that win the game. So either you won the game or you didn't. So yes or no. And this was automatic. So they could play millions and millions of times. And so they could perfect the system based on the probability of winning. So what does that really mean? So on the right-hand side, you see what is called Elo rating. And Elo rating really means comparing chess players, for example. Elo is based on a person that identified this rating system. So the y-axis shows that it took 40 days in the case on this to overcome some of the best human players by self-improvement. Now, the question that you need to ask yourself, so what could we do to get the equivalent step for large language models? Because we are now doing only the step one. We are imitating humans. We have human laborers writing answers, and we are imitating the responses. But even with good human laborers, it's hard to get beyond human response and the accuracy if we only train on humans. So the question is, are we going to be able to build models, LLM models, that in the open domain of language modeling? And the challenge will always be that there is a lack of reward criterion in the general case. Because in the space of language, everything is much more open with lots of different tasks, and there isn't a simple reward function. So it's continuous to see, but it might be that if we take a more narrow domain and identify reward function, this could be achievable. And that's what the researchers are trying to do as we speak. So just hopefully this gave you an idea of where the generative AI is going and what we are trying to do. We're trying to really get these models to be more predictive and also use more thinking through what I just showed you, and then through the self-improvement. Okay, let's move to prediction number 2. So now we're talking about the AI ecosystem game and Microsoft partners. We have in our previous webinars talked about the Copilot, and I would encourage you to go and check the webinar number 1, which kind of shows how Copilot for Microsoft 365 works. And the first Copilot that Microsoft came with was GitHub Copilot, and it's now been in general availability for more than a year. And it's really changed the way programming is done. And based on some of the research, 60–70% of the GitHub users are using the Copilot, GitHub Copilot. Then you have also Copilot for Dynamics 365. So Microsoft is really amending the Copilot technology into also to the business application space. And they have started with Dynamics 365 for Business Central, which is a accounting solution empowering small and medium-sized organizations. So they've added the AI tools on it. And Dynamics 365 Customer Service, so empowering agents to deliver exceptional customer care. And this is done through chat, email, and it provides this interactive chat experience over knowledge bases and the LLMs. And of course, all these solutions are integrated with Outlook and Teams, where it's allowing a better data management and utilization of generative AI capabilities, such as summarization of records, email content generation, and such. The big thing that is going to impact all of us at some point in time is Copilot for Microsoft 365. And that's exactly what I showed in previous webinars. And those are driven by large language models. And the way they do it is through Microsoft Graph interaction. So that's really the soul of that integration. That includes all of your existing emails, documents. So it really provides you with a context-sensitive content generation. And it's grounded in your information. So there's no external information used when it generates, besides the LLM models. And it's integrated into all these Microsoft 365 apps. Copilot for Windows. If you are running Windows 11, you can now apply Copilot, do things that might have been hard for you before. If you want to, for example, change your PC settings, you can use Copilot to do that. Copilot for security. That space is going to be very important for any of us because the bad actors are also using LLMs to do things in a better way than they did before. But on the other hand, Microsoft is also investing. How can we be more effective in protecting ourselves? So having, for example, automated threat detection, having advanced analytics, incident responses, threat hunting, data privacy and security. So a lot of that stuff is going to be more effective using the LLM models. And then finally, which is something that has really taken off big way, is the low code, no code environments. So Microsoft has now also embedded Copilot for Power Platform. So being able to really have people that are not used to or are not used to programming using natural language expressions to be able to build apps. Of course, it's always important that, eventually when you take these apps into deployment, it's always good to have people that really know the programming as well, but it really changes the way, and there's going to be a new category of developers appearing in the future. So I hope this kind of gave you a little bit of a background. So Microsoft is really building Copilot in all of their product lines. Now, what is really interesting, if we look at the way Microsoft has taken this road. So out of the box, you will get all the skills from the LLM models. So these Copilots, as I said, showed in our first webinar, you can do content, create content, summarize things, categorize things. And all this information comes from the knowledge of the large language models. And it's trained on public data. And then this data is grounded with the data from a Microsoft Graph. And I mentioned this: documents, emails, and communication. So that's for the general skills. But now what Microsoft has done is to really extend this, because we can't assume that the data, everything that is needed, lives in an LLM model or lives in your Office 365 tenant. So what Microsoft has done is to build a extensibility model that allows you to extend your Microsoft 365 with custom skills and organizational knowledge specific to your enterprise. And Mikko and I have been talking about the RAG models, where you kind of meld your internal data with external data in a grounded manner. So they are doing this in two ways, through two extensibility constructs: plugins that allow new skills to Copilot by connecting to REST APIs from your line of business applications, and graph connectors that allow to add new knowledge to Copilot by connecting it to data and line of business systems. So it's kind of interesting because you can enrich the information in your Microsoft 365 tenant and still keep your users in the flow of work, and really embedding that into the security, compliance, and privacy policies that Microsoft brings as part of the platform. So what we think is going to happen to finalize the Copilot story here, Microsoft really wants to build an environment where partners and customers can extend their current solutions. And this has been a big ask from Microsoft partners. And I believe specifically because I've been working with Microsoft ecosystem 17 years, if you are a partner, you really have to start looking into this, because that's where Microsoft is taking its platforms. But it also allows the development of your own IP, because you are taking what Microsoft has built as a part of the platform, and you're extending it to different domains, different verticals, and creating your own IP that you can then commercialize. So that's where Microsoft is taking, and we believe that you're going to see much more in the upcoming 2024 when it comes to Microsoft. So they have just started. So Mikko, back to you.
Thank you, Petri. So interesting stuff coming from the Microsoft ecosystem, or for the Microsoft ecosystem, and it's the System 1, System 2 thinking is also something to keep an eye on. So let's move on then. We're gonna go to the let's move on then. The next prediction, prediction 3. AI will bridge the chasm between the early adopters and early majority. So first, some data from Gartner. So Gartner predicts that the generative AI will be democratized, so that it's accessible for the workers worldwide. So the pre-trained models, they are available for everybody. There's cloud computing, open source. And what that leads to is a situation where 80% of enterprises will have used the generative AI in production environments. And this is in 3 years' time, 2026, or soon 2 years' time. And that is a massive uplift. So currently, they say that the number is less than 5%. When you compare these kind of predictions for different companies, it's really like the devil's in the details. So here we say enterprises, not just any companies. Does it count if an enterprise has one use case? There are all these variables, but what is common across all of these predictions is that there's going to be like massive adoption of generative AI. So what does that mean then if you are implementing things, if you're driving this change forward? On the right-hand side graph, you see the yellow curve, which is like typical growth curve where the technology adoption happens. And then superimposed on top of that is the typical roles of players in this technology adoption curve. So we have the innovators, the first 2.5%. Those are the people who are like going towards the new no matter what. They are actually seeking the failure because it is like validating something and moving forward. Then I think where the market is now, and if you say like 5%, less than 5% of the enterprise are using, we are at the stage of early adopters. Early adopters are a significant part of the population, 13.5%. They are the trendsetters. They're comfortable taking risks. So they're not seeking failure, but they don't need an absolute certainty. They want to form a solid opinion of a technology before they support it, but they don't need to be, it doesn't need to be like fact-based all the way to the end. Now, what is going to happen next year is that we're going to see increasingly the early majority coming into play. And that's where the chasm is between the early adopters and early majority. That is the kind of hardest barrier or hardest shift from one group to another one because the behaviors are so different. Early majority takes the kind of overall population up to 50%, including the innovators and early adopters. They are interested in technology, but where they differ from the early adopters is that they want proof of the effectiveness. So this year, many AI projects were started by people who want to move forward with the technology. They were pushed like, yes, we want to make things happen. It's okay if we fail. Increasingly, we need to have fact-based, proof-based arguments for people to get the AI going forward. Then the next prediction, AI will drive employee satisfaction and also dissatisfaction. So let's take again some data. So this is from Forrester. And Forrester claims that next year, a whopping 60% of employees will use their own AI tools at work. And of course, this will create security risks. But this tells about the kind of how commonplace it is. Like people believe that they need AI tools to do their work like professionally and effectively. What Forrester knows is that the AI strategies must focus on managing shadow usage, which is kind of but shouldn't we focus on driving the value? So isn't the kind of usage of shadow AI is a demonstration that the company hasn't provided good enough AI tools? It's pretty sad when people need to choose between are they compliant with the IT policies or do they do their job professionally? So really focus on driving the value and solving the problem for people so that they can use effective tools. And this is the pressure that tech leaders are feeling. So it's the picture we saw before. There's pressure coming from bottom up and there's pressure coming top down. Now let's start thinking about like how this plays out then at the workplace and why is it like why is it an HR tool? Why is it driving satisfaction? Let me first tell a story. This is a real story from a lawyer friend of mine who explained like if you work in a legal practice and if you work in the old way, so you go through a contract, you draft it and you send it out. You expect the contract to stay some time on the opposing counsel's or the other company's desk before it comes back with a red line, and then you read it and you add your comments, and after a few iterations, it's then the agreed contract. And this is how we used to operate. But like if you now have a company on the other side who has like modern AI tools in effect, they can take your contract, run it through an AI model, and with good prompting and being critical about the outcomes, they can get back to you in a matter of minutes or hours. And how depressive it must be working in a like old school company where you have all the contracts, all the work on your desk. You send something out, it comes back in an hour. And then maybe like a couple of days later, you have time to work on that again. You send it out, it comes back in an hour. So we're going to see like two kind of workplaces. We see the old tech workplaces where AI is not used, and they are increasingly falling behind in productivity and also in the satisfaction of the employees. And then you have the modern companies who find meaningful AI tools, not just technology for technology's sake, but something that helps people do their work. And probably they are going to be more satisfied. Now, this is a very black and white, of course. It's not like all utopian and dystopian. So let's look at the other quadrants here. What happens in a workplace where the company invests into AI and finds AI like enhanced tools, but the employees don't catch up with that? If we remember that 16% of the US population will be replaced because of the AI. So this is going to be a reality in many, if not virtually all the workplaces. There is going to be resistance from people. We are not just talking about the people who voluntarily take the MBAs or certifications on their free time, but people who've been doing their job years or decades, and now all in a sudden they are asked to behave totally differently. There's going to be stress there. And then in some companies, the AI tools are starting to show the benefit and people will be downsized and there will be less people working there. This is something we have covered in our previous webinars to a certain extent. Maybe a part that hasn't been so much discussed is the other end of the spectrum. So if you have employees who want to use AI, they are asking, give me good tools so I can do my job. And if the company doesn't respond in kind, you're probably going to find an empty office. They will vote with their feet and they will be recruited by companies who are growing, who are using the AI tools. So this is, we believe that 2024, we will start a trend that will just be increasing, that the AI tools will be a driver for employee satisfaction and dissatisfaction, a tool for recruitment and also for retainment. Then finally, marketing will catch up with tech mumbo jumbo. And let's see what this means. I'm going to start from quite far away. So the big tech companies, the hyperscalers, the Amazons and AWS and Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud, they've been growing like mad, double digits year after year after year. And of course, as a result, their growth has been slowing down. But what we start to see here on the right-hand side of the scale is that the growth is picking up again. And that is quite remarkable. If we're talking about like tens of billions of dollars in sales and you are growing double digits and you are accelerating the growth. And this is something that has kind of captured the marketplace. If we see the news, what's coming out. I was looking at the AI news a couple of weeks ago, and this is what came in the main kind of news streams, not just like geeky sites. Microsoft unveils 2.7 billion parameter language model Phi 2. I don't think many people understand what that means. And then the news just went on comparing table after table. So Phi 2, while it's only 2.7 billion parameters, and Llama 2's large model is 70 billion parameters, is going to be almost as good in the common sense reasoning, lagging behind on math, but superseding or exceeding the capability in the coding. So this is the kind of tech mumbo jumbo that our news and marketing communications have been feeding throughout this year. And I think there is like a clear, simple explanation for this. We, the tech people, engineers, didn't give a fair warning to the marketing departments about what's coming up, and we had an oversized advantage. So we've been dominating the conversation with the tech mumbo jumbo, and marketing really hasn't like caught up with something captivating. And this is quite typical for us in tech. So we have companies like OpenAI and product names like ChatGPT. That's probably one of the worst product names ever. There is a precedence here. Like if you are a German engineer who lives in München and or Munich, and you are establishing like a car workshop, car company, you probably name it Bayerische Motorenwerk. There is no going around that. And the best your marketing team can do is rebrand it as BMW. But still, over 100 years after starting the company, product names are like BMW X5 M60i. That's pretty pathetic from a marketing perspective. Not all the car companies behave the same. Rolls-Royce, when they were asked like how many horsepower do you have, answered, of course, that enough. Nokia, while the Nokia naming was just numbers, the product positioning was always about the quality, the durability, the usability. And of course, Apple perfected this game. So Apple doesn't talk about the pixels, just like Nokia didn't talk about the processors or number of cores. Apple talks about the retina. And when it comes to the chips, they talk about M3. So Apple is brilliant in comparing their products against their own products, not against their competition. And that is how they can magically come up with the best iPhone ever every single year. Now, let's see how this marketing then plays. Our prediction is we're going to see less of this. We're going to see less of like tech-heavy, low-tech stack, publicity in marketing and also in press. If we remember like what the early maturity wants, they want proof. So you cannot anymore go with opinions. And this is one slide that we have shown in a couple of previous presentations. So this is the kind of proof that we start see popping up. So this is the Harvard Business School study based on Boston Consulting Group's consultants, where they gave part of the team AI tools, and then a control group didn't get AI tools, and they compared the results. And the group with AI tools, they finished 12% more tasks. They completed 25% faster than the control group, and with 40% higher quality. So when we start to see fact-based news, we're going to start attracting the early majority as well. And then it's going to help with the transition of the technology. So that is our fifth prediction. We will see the tech mumbo jumbo replaced with real compelling news. So it's going to be real product features, not just tech stack features. It's going to be the use cases of those features, the benefits that they bring, and then ultimately what kind of problems they solve and what kind of gains they deliver. Which companies are starting to succeed and which companies are struggling in this new landscape. And this concludes our predictions. Let's look back in a year's time how we did. As mentioned, this is a bit of a celebration for us. So starting in June, we've delivered 10 approachable AI presentations, some of them webinars and some of them live. And you can go to our website and please take a look, find some more interesting content there. Also, if you want to be fact-based, we have blog posts, we have case studies, we even packaged the AI readiness assessment that can help you get your AI projects started in a company in a meaningful way. And the journey continues. Ilpo and I are going to be in Las Vegas, so if you're at the CES early in the year, hope to see you there. Any other questions you have, don't be shy to reach out. We can help you with Envision, we can help you with the design and development. And then lastly, we would like to wish everybody happy holidays. We have done a donation for UNICEF this year. They are helping the children in Ukraine and other places where children are suffering globally. So have a very good holidays and get back to you early next year, and let's get something interesting going on the AI space.
Happy holidays from me as well.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.